The doors of the luxury dealership slid open with a whisper, letting in the smell of rain and worn leather. Heads didn't turn. Customers browsing the latest Aston Martins, Porsches, and Bentleys were too engrossed in the shine. But Courtney noticed. The man who walked in didn't belong, not in her eyes. He wore an old, faded t-shirt with a stain near the hem and pants so threadbare they looked like they could tear with a sneeze. His shoes had no brand, just cracks. She didn't like it. Not in her dealership. "Sir," she called out, already approaching, clipboard in hand like a weapon, "I'm going to have to ask you to leave." He paused by the silver DB12, resting his hand lightly on the mirror, almost reverently. "I'm just looking," he said softly. "This place is for serious buyers," she snapped. "This car costs more than your—" She stopped herself. But the tone said it all. He looked at her, calm, with a glimmer in his eye that made her uncomfortable. "You sure you want me to leave?" he asked. She didn't even hesitate. "Yes." And he walked out, without saying another word. But someone else was about to walk in, and everything was about to change. Courtney stood by the entrance, watching the automatic doors slide shut behind the old man. The silence in the showroom felt louder now. She exhaled through her nose, smoothed her blazer, and turned back toward the front desk. "Who lets people like that in here?" she muttered under her breath, more to herself than anyone else. A young intern behind the reception computer shifted awkwardly but said nothing. 10 minutes passed. Then 15. The day rolled on, until the unmistakable growl of a V12 engine echoed through the parking lot. The glass doors opened again, but this time it was someone everyone did recognize. It was him. Mr. Walter Harris. Owner of the dealership. A man who usually stayed behind the scenes, except when it really mattered. Tall, silver-haired, sharp-eyed, dressed in his signature navy trench coat. No one dared speak first when he entered. Not even Courtney. He made a beeline straight for her. "Where is he?" he asked, voice firm and low. She blinked. "Excuse me?" "My brother." "Where is he?" A pause. Her face went pale. "Wait, you mean that man who just—" Mr. Harris's eyes narrowed like a blade. "He said he was coming by to look at the new Aston. He's been off the grid for 3 months doing humanitarian work in Sierra Leone. I told him to stop by. He didn't mention wanting to be treated like trash." Her mouth opened. No sound came out. "You sent him away," he said. Not a question. A fact. And then, in front of the entire staff, he said 6 words that made Courtney's stomach drop. "You no longer work here. Effective now." Rain tapped against the glass like a soft warning as the dealership settled into its late morning lull. The scent of polished leather and espresso floated in the air. No one expected a storm to walk in, but it did. Just not the kind they were used to. The sleek glass doors opened again, this time revealing a man whose very presence shifted the energy in the room. Walter Harris. The man. The name on the building. Most employees had only seen him twice, once during hiring, once during the holiday toast. He wasn't known for showing up unannounced. But today, he moved like a man on a mission. His overcoat was still dripping from the rain, but his eyes burned with intent. As he entered, a hush fell over the staff. Phones were lowered. Conversations died mid-sentence. Courtney, standing behind the front desk, felt her stomach drop. "Where is he?" Harris asked flatly. She blinked. "Sir. I'm sorry." "Who?" He took a step closer. "My brother. Elijah." The name hit her like a slap. The man. The one she had just kicked out less than 20 minutes ago. Her mouth opened, but no words came. Harris stared straight through her. "He told me he'd stop by. I told him to come in, look around, pick what he wanted. He just got back from 3 months in the field. Building homes. feeding children, saving people. And you threw him out? I didn't know, she whispered. You didn't ask. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. And in that moment, the silence was louder than anything else. Courtney tried to explain. He didn't look like someone who. She caught herself again, but it was too late. Didn't look like what? Harris snapped. Didn't look rich? Didn't look white? Didn't look like someone you'd give the time of day? She stood frozen, every carefully curated part of her image cracking beneath his words. Behind them, employees exchanged glances. Some were shocked. Others, less so. Maybe they'd seen this side of Courtney before, just never with such consequences. I've built this place for decades, Harris said. But if this is what we've become, a temple for snobs who judge people by their shoes, then maybe I've built it wrong. No, please, Mr. Harris, I'm loyal. I've always. You were loyal to a version of this place that's dead. He looked to the side. Security had already stepped forward. Quiet. Professional. One of them held a small box, her things, already gathered from her office. Courtney's perfect world cracked like glass. She turned to look at the others one last time. No one met her gaze. She walked out with her head high, but her silence said everything. Harris watched the doors close behind her, then pulled out his phone. One name. One call. Elijah, he said softly. Come back. No anger. No pride. Just something far more powerful, regret. A young intern, barely out of high school, turned to Marcus and whispered, "Wait, that was his brother?" Marcus nodded slowly. And Harris, still staring at the door, murmured without turning. You're all about to see who he really is. Courtney froze. The hum of the showroom's ambient music suddenly felt deafening. Every pair of eyes in the dealership locked onto her, but no one dared speak. No one moved. Mr. Harris, wait, she stammered, her voice shaky now. I didn't know. He didn't look like someone who. Didn't look like someone who could afford a car here. Harris cut in sharply. That's what you were going to say, right? She swallowed hard. I was just trying to protect the brand. He shook his head slowly, disappointment etched across his face. You weren't protecting the brand. You were protecting your ego. And you judged someone based on their shoes instead of their soul. Courtney's hands trembled. Please. Just, give me a chance to explain. But Harris turned away. You don't represent this place anymore. Two security guards appeared silently at the edge of the showroom, as if summoned by the weight of his words. Courtney's jaw clenched, but she knew better than to fight it. Without another word, she picked up her things and walked out, her heels clicking sharply on the pristine floor. And as the doors closed behind her, no one followed. Meanwhile, Harris pulled out his phone and dialed. Come back, he said simply into the receiver. You're welcome here. Always. A few employees exchanged confused glances. One of the salesmen, Marcus, finally spoke. Wait, that was his brother? The guy in the dirty tee? Harris turned slowly toward him. You have no idea who he is, he said quietly. And you're about to find out. The air in the dealership was thick with the aftershock of what had just happened. Marcus, the salesman, leaned against the counter, still wide-eyed. So, what's the story? I mean, we've all worked here for years and never even heard about a brother. Mr. Harris glanced at him, then at the rest of the staff, who had all quietly gathered, curiosity buzzing like electricity. He exhaled, folded his arms. His name is Elijah. The name hung in the room like a ghost. No one recognized it, yet it carried gravity, as if they should have. He's my younger brother. And for a long time, he didn't want to be tied to all of this. Harris gestured to the glossy cars, the glass, the gold trim. He hated the spotlight. While I built this dealership empire, he traveled. Worked in war zones. Built homes for refugees. Fed people on the street while we sold cars that cost more than some villages. A long pause. Some of the staff lowered their eyes. He's the better man, Harris said quietly. Always has been. The silence broke as the dealership doors opened again. And there he was. Elijah stood in the entrance, same worn clothes, but his posture now told a different story. Confident. Calm. The man who had just been dismissed like a beggar, now looked like the only one who owned the room. Mr. Harris smiled for the first time that day. Brother. Elijah walked forward, nodding. Walter. Their handshake turned into a brief hug, firm, real. The kind men share when there's more history between them than words. Then Elijah turned his eyes on the staff. His gaze was kind, but sharp. I hear someone thought I didn't belong here. A tense chuckle rippled awkwardly across the floor. But Elijah's smile didn't waver. Let's fix that. Because tomorrow, everything about this dealership was going to change. The staff gathered awkwardly near the back of the showroom as Mr. Harris and Elijah sat down at the main glass table, right in the center of it all, not hidden in an office, not behind closed doors. Walter leaned back in his chair, letting his brother speak first. Elijah's voice was calm, but it carried across the room with a quiet authority. I'm not here to scold anyone. That's not my style, he said, glancing around. But I will say this, places like this aren't just about cars. They're about people. And if you can't tell the difference between someone struggling and someone choosing simplicity, then this dealership is broken in a way that leather seats can't fix. No one said a word. Even Marcus, who was usually quick with a joke, kept his mouth shut. Elijah stood and slowly walked past the cars on display. He paused in front of a matte black Ferrari SF90. Beautiful car, he said. But in Sierra Leone, I saw a man cry tears of joy because he got a working faucet. Think about that next time you judge someone by what they're wearing instead of who they are. Behind him, a few of the junior staff looked visibly uncomfortable, but also reflective. Mr. Harris stood now. This dealership has made millions, he said. But starting next week, we're starting a new program. For every car we sell, part of the profit will fund a community housing initiative Elijah started. And he'll be managing it, right here, from this building. A murmur swept through the room. You're serious? One of the receptionists whispered. Oh, we're very serious, Elijah said, turning around with a slight grin. And then he walked toward the manager's office. The one Courtney used to rule like a throne. He opened the door, looked inside, and paused. A framed quote still hung on the wall. Dress for the job you want. He pulled it down, looked at it for a beat, then chuckled softly. Let's start dressing for the world we want instead. Change is a funny thing. Some people embrace it. Others smile at it, while sharpening their knives behind the scenes. The next few days at the dealership were anything but normal. Elijah, still wearing simple jeans and a clean polo, moved through the building like a quiet storm. He didn't bark orders. He listened. He asked questions. He learned names. Even the janitor got more attention than most of the senior sales team ever had. But under the surface, tensions were bubbling. In the break room, Marcus leaned over to another salesman, his voice low. So this is it. We're just turning the dealership into a charity now. His co-worker shrugged, unsure. He is the owner's brother. Marcus scoffed. Owner's idealistic brother. You heard what he said, housing projects, giving back, blah blah. That's not what sells cars. We sell prestige, not pity. Unbeknownst to him, Elijah was just outside the door, pausing mid-step. He didn't walk in. He didn't say a word. He simply listened. Later that afternoon, Elijah gathered the entire team. I've been watching, he began. And I know not everyone is on board. That's okay. You don't have to agree with everything I do. A few nervous glances bounced across the room. But let me ask you this, what kind of legacy do you want? To be remembered as the guy who sold expensive toys to rich men? Or the team that built something bigger than itself? Silence. I'm not here to shame anyone, he added. But I am here to lead. And with or without your support, this dealership is evolving. He gave them a moment. Let the weight of it sink in. Then, with a small smile, he turned and headed toward the service department. But as he walked away, Marcus pulled out his phone and started typing something that wasn't meant to help anyone. Marcus's thumbs flew across his phone screen like he was defusing a bomb. Except he was planting one. He wasn't just mad, he was threatened. Ever since Elijah showed up, everything changed. The vibe, the culture, even the customers. They weren't coming in just to be dazzled by chrome and horsepower anymore, they were being inspired. And that scared the hell out of Marcus. So he did what snakes do best, he whispered in the right ears. By the next morning, a post appeared on a local business forum, anonymous, of course. A scathing accusation: luxury dealership prioritizes charity over clients. Unprofessional staff. Rundown leadership. Standards slipping. It was subtle enough to seem real, and venomous enough to do damage. The story picked up speed. Clicks. Shares. Comments. A local auto blogger picked it up and ran with it. Within hours, Elijah's new initiative was under scrutiny, with online trolls accusing the dealership of being woke and unserious. Mr. Harris stormed into the office, the printed article crumpled in his fist. What the hell is this? Elijah, calm as ever, looked at the headline. Read every word. Then gently set it aside. It's fear, he said. Someone's scared of what we're building. But it's hurting us, Harris growled. We lost 2 high-end appointments this morning. We can't afford that kind of PR hit. I can fix it, Elijah replied. Harris frowned. How? Elijah stood, walked to the showroom window, and pointed toward the entrance. We invite them in. Everyone. All walks of life. We show the city who we are now. Walter didn't answer right away. You sure this is the hill you want to die on? Elijah turned to him, steady and certain. No, he said. This is the hill I'm willing to live on. But just as he said it, Marcus's phone buzzed in his pocket. A reply to his anonymous post. From a local journalist. I want to talk. Off the record. Tomorrow. The next day, the dealership looked different. Not because of any renovation. But because of the people. A line had started forming outside before the doors even opened. Not the usual high rollers in tailored suits, but families. Teachers. Veterans. Single moms. People who'd never once stepped foot into a place like this. They were here because Elijah had done something no luxury dealership had ever tried. He invited the community in. Free test drives. Food trucks in the parking lot. A pop-up donation station to support local housing efforts. Even a mobile clinic offering free checkups for underprivileged families. Inside, Elijah moved through the crowd with ease. Listening. Smiling. Connecting. Some people took selfies with him. Others just said, "Thank you," with glassy eyes. And for every one of them, he remembered a name. A story. But not everyone was smiling. Marcus stood at the far end of the showroom, jaw tight as he watched the place buzz with energy he didn't understand. The reporter he'd contacted had ghosted him. Maybe they'd sensed it too, that this wasn't a scandal. It was a revolution. As the sun dipped low, Mr. Harris stood in front of the crowd gathered around the central platform, a microphone in hand. Cameras rolled. Phones were out. Eyes were locked in. Today, he said, we sold more cars than we did last month. But more importantly, we gained something bigger: purpose. He gestured toward Elijah. My brother reminded me of something I forgot, that legacy isn't built on profit. It's built on impact. Thunderous applause. Elijah stepped up to speak, but only said one thing. We're not just selling cars anymore. We're driving change. Suddenly, a voice called out from the crowd. It was the janitor, Reggie, holding up his phone, clearly emotional. I used to sweep this floor and dream of owning any car. Elijah gave me a chance. Today I closed my first sale. You tell me that's not worth something? Cheers erupted. And Marcus? He slipped out the back quietly, unnoticed and unmissed. By nightfall, news stations were already calling it the day luxury got a heart. The dealership would never be the same. And neither would the people inside it.